the bat pulls.
Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome back to another Batman Arkham Wednesdays. Today we'll be looking at the origins behind the famous Batman TV show and using the 1960s Batman skin because I figured it'd be appropriate. As some of you may know, the Adam West Campy series will finally be coming to DVD and Blu-ray this November. All 3 seasons, finally winning over the battle with Fox. So WB and DC Comics have the rights to release the series, and it's been a long time coming. Before then, the classic TV show could only be seen in reruns on the Family Channel, TV Land, or that retro network. And I think Nick at Night at one point too. But have you ever wondered about the story behind this series that changed comic books forever? Well, it's time to strap into the Batmobile as we power up the atomic batteries and turbines to speed, with the lore behind the famous campy TV show. Oh, and if this video could get 2,000 likes, that would be epic. Okay, so late in 1963, sales of the Batman comics were pretty bad, folks. At the time, DC publisher Irwin Donalfield spoke with editor Julie Swartz and said pretty much this: Batman is dying. You have 6 months to fix this, or game over. More or less, probably didn't say game over, but you know what I mean. So that's right, folks, Batman could have been no more, and comics as we know it could have ended in 1964. Going the route of more Archie style, I guess. I don't really know. I wasn't born then, so. Still, it was up to Swartz and his artist named Carmine to save the Dark Knight. They actually started with a new look to Batman, adding the yellow oval around the bat symbol, and redesigning the costume just a little bit. Also, the stories were more thrilling, action-packed, and filled with lots of detective elements. The art became more realistic too, and Batman was fighting mob bosses again, not donning rainbow costumes or fending off alien robots and superpowered beings from wherever. Finally, he was heading back to his Detective Comics roots, putting the camp behind him, or at least that's what everybody thought. During the release of the new Batman logo in issue 170 and 171, the Batbooks had a very eye-popping cover drawn by Carmine. No one really knows just how the TV series got off the ground, but a few myths surround it. Rumor has it that Bill Dozer, a TV executive, was at an airport and saw one of the 2 issues mentioned, and he called ABC and boom, a TV series was born. On the other hand, some like to argue that the birth of Batman kind of happened with a screening at Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion in Chicago around 1964. When the Batman serials were being re-released for art film houses. So if you don't know what those are, it's basically rich people with screening rooms, more or less. Anyway, Bob Kane was at the mansion, and he wrote the serial that they watched called The Electrical Brain, starring Lewis Wilson and Douglas Croft. The reason I know this is because, sadly, I have those terrible serial Batman things, and none of them are continued. They say they're continued, but they're not. It's like, you never know what happens. But anyway, apparently an ABC executive was at the screening, and he called up ABC and was like, why don't we do a Batman pilot? I think it would work. But personally, I think this is how it really happened. Based on the popularity of the George Reeves Superman series in the past and how long it basically ran, they gave Batman the go-ahead because they figured it could work. Also, ABC really didn't have any good shows for that season anyway, and ratings were pretty bad overall. ABC had a lot of really crappy shows. Still, the Batman show was a gamble, and it paid off. William Dozer was put in charge of the Batman TV show project, and previously, he was the guy responsible for shows like Dennis the Menace. So yeah, it makes perfect sense for a guy to take Dennis the Menace and turn him into Batman. What's funny is, Bill knew nothing about Batman and never read a Batman book or even a comic book. Sounds eerily similar to Joel Schumacher, doesn't it? After being pulled into a meeting with the ABC executives or whatever, he took on the project. And God bless him. He basically rushed into the comic book store afterwards and picked up many different issues off the newsstand that featured Batman. And I can only imagine what Bill saw that day. See, remember, most comics would have had pretty bizarre Brave and the Bold Batman elements, like giant robots, aliens, superpowers, magic pixie people, and of course Superman team-ups. Look, I'm not a drinker, but seeing that stuff, I bet Bill was like, "Great Scott! How on earth am I supposed to make this a TV show? He's like flying and there's all these colored costume people. This just makes no sense." Which brings us back to Batman's relaunch in issues 170 and 171, and I also want to talk about Detective Comics 329. In fact, most of the elements found in these books appeared in the Batman TV series with Adam West and Burt Ward. Issue 171 featured the Riddler, had stately Wayne Manor, and showed Bruce and Dick outside of the Batsuits. Detective Comics 329, though, definitely cemented the deal for the Batman TV show. It showed off pretty much all of Batman's iconic weaponry, the Batmobile, the phone to Commissioner Gordon, and even introduced Aunt Harriet. You guys wanted some pics, so hopefully I remember to add them in post. So yeah, enjoy that. Okay, so anyway, let's chat about the actors. If some of you saw the Return to the Batcave special about a decade ago, I think, we learned that Robin, Burt Ward, won the audition for the Boy Wonder out of thousands of actors, for two reasons. One, he looked like Robin straight from the pages of DC Comics, and two, he knew martial arts and could do his own stunts. So that right there is pretty good for $350 a day, although not really. Unlike actor Adam West, Robin got no stunt double. This was a course to cut down production costs and make the show look more believable, especially if Robin appeared in every single shot, which is something that Burt didn't sign up for. Adam West, on the other hand, he was pretty much replaced for all driving shots and some combat scenes, only coming in when they needed to do a close-up or something like that. Hence why the comic effects would appear on the screen, or the camera would be panned away so we couldn't see West's face half the time. Herbie Kearns was actually the stunt guy behind Batman. Though it was also a good way to deal with the violence that the show had, especially after the first season, where the comic effects would actually take up the entire screen instead of just being transparencies. Two birds with one stone. Back to the cast, though. Alfred was actually dead at the time in the comics, and he was replaced with Grayson's aunt, which is kind of weird that they would give Grayson an aunt because it defeats the purpose of having his whole family dead, but that's another rant for another day. They actually cast actor Alan Napier, I believe is how you say it, and the story goes he was the first cast member for the 60s Batman series and was offered $100,000 to be Batman's butler. Now Napier, who didn't know anything about Batman, where did they find these people? He was like, I have to play Batman's butler? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, and based on my acting chops, that's insulting. But after hearing his agent offer all that money, he proudly said, I'm Batman's butler then. Other cast members were taken from Leave It to Beaver, which I believe it was Madge Blake as Aunt Harriet, Neil Hamilton from General Hospital. Yeah, General Hospital existed way back then. He was James Gordon, and Stafford Rep was Chief O'Hara, one of my favorite characters, who I believe was from I Dream of Jeannie, although his role escapes me at this time. Maybe he was like a secondary character or the mailman, I don't know. What I didn't know about the Batcave, though, is it cost $800,000 back in 1965. So this cave cost this much money. The budget for the first episode, High Diddle Riddle, was actually based on the remarkable ruse of the Riddler, issue 171, and cost the studio $500,000. That's $500,000. It also guest starred Frank Gorson as the Riddler, who believed the series was doomed to failure. Still, trouble brewed for the new show, and ABC was close to being bankrupt at the time. CBS was literally crushing them in the ratings, and Batman was a very long shot at that. Only a few months after they finished wrapping the pilot, ABC rushed Batman to a January 12th, 1966 premiere. Then at the very last second, they cut the hour pilot into 2 parts, which was unheard of for the time. And people were like freaking out who made the show. ABC's plan was if the show is a success, the cliffhanger endings would pull the audience in for the following night. This brilliant move actually paid off, and Batman became a huge hit where people were waiting for the next day to find out what happened to Batman and Robin with these cliffhanger endings. So ABC was like a genius. Because of this, Batmania was born, and comic fans everywhere rejoiced when Batman was on television. Also, Batman basically changed things forever, not just for superhero shows, but it was one of the first shows to be broadcast in living color. Over the course of its first season, it raked in more than $75 million just in Batman merchandise alone. Like, everybody was putting out something Batman related to, like, ride this cash cow. In fact, Batmania didn't sweep the nation again until 1989, where The Dark Knight raked in $1 billion due to all the Batman stuff. And I'm guilty of having my parents buy a lot of Batman stuff in 1989, not just the movie stuff. During the mid-60s, Batman's fame even reached comics, and now Batman got top billing ahead of Superman, which DC was probably like, you know what? We're just going to put Batman in front of everything right now, and people are just going to buy it because it's Batman. That was smart. And it's something that still exists to this day. The Justice League books, the cartoons, one of the most iconic figures in all of that, center stage, is Batman. Even Bruce Timm at the end beginning of the Justice League series, the first character you see is what? Batman. That's right. Now, what's funny though is the entire pilot of the 66 series is almost an exact replica of issue 171 from 1964. Holy plagiarism, Batman! Panel by panel, word for word, it's exact. I guess they really didn't care about plagiarism back then, because most of the series was adapted from either Batman or Detective Comics spanning the Silver Age and up until 1966. Even some of the really bizarre death traps. Before the second season aired, ABC brought Batman to the big screen with the first ever color Batman film. It was a monumental success and big enough to star 4 villains. Cesar Romero as the Joker, and as you probably know, he didn't want to shave off his iconic mustache, so he would just do white face paint, which he thought was kind of funny because on some close-ups you can see his mustache underneath. Burgess Meredith was the Penguin, you know, Rocky's trainer, and Frank Gorson was the Riddler, along with Lee Merriweather for Catwoman, which for some reason she replaced Julie Newmar for the film. I don't really know why. But anyway, the film had exploding sharks, lots of puns, bombs, the Batcopter, and even the Batboat. I mean, this was a big film. The film only took about, I believe it was 6 to 9 weeks to shoot in total, and they did it right after the first season wrapped up. Now, the original plan was to do the movie to introduce other countries to Batman, but what ended up happening is they had a box office smash. Now, Adam West and Burt Ward may have been the princes of camp, but you have to remember, they were laughing all the way to the bank. As the show went on, it did change from its kind of dramatic setting to more campy. Batman and Robin would hardly ever get shot or hurt anymore, and the death traps just got really weird. Borrowing a lot of elements from DC's Silver Age, which at this point, you know, they were probably like, this show's gonna make money, kids are gonna watch, so we're gonna lighten the tone a little bit. They also did it by literally replacing regular villains. Like the Riddler was the guy from the Addams Family at one point. They had 4 or 5 different Mr. Freezes, and they had 3 Catwomen. And Batman and Robin just acted like nothing happened when Mr. Freeze would go from a Russian to German accent or Australian, and Catwoman would literally change skin color. Nobody noticed. It's like, so anybody could just, you know, step in and be a different character. But that was part of the charm of the 60s series. Now, eventually, ratings did start to go down, and nearing the end of the second season, something needed to be done to revitalize the series. Bill actually went to DC and asked if they had any other DC Bat female fatales that they could use in their series. Now, one DC executive brought up Poison Ivy, which was probably a good suggestion because she brought a different element to the series. But Bill actually wanted a heroine this time. And the only heroine at that time was really Batwoman, who had been retired. So Batgirl was selected, literally out of a hat. And to hype up her television debut, Batgirl was given a redesigned treatment by DC and relaunched in Detective Comics 359, which was the $1 million debut of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, as, of course, the next Batgirl. Now, Yvonne Craig would actually bring the character and the purple batsuit to life in the final season of the Batman show. And unlike some of their other choices, she was a gymnast, so she could actually be very flexible and do the combat stuff and stunts with no problem. Plus, she was nice to look at. She replaced Julie Neymour as the reason most older guys watched the show. Batgirl would kinda help the ratings for a while, but the show had run its course, and by 1968, Batman was of course canceled. Now, Adam West and Burt Ward tried to save the show and move it to another network, and talks were going really well, but somebody must have lost the memo about the Batcave because that set was torn down somewhere in between the talks with another network. After that, the show was officially dead. Because remember how much that atomic power Batcave cost in 1965. Now add more money to it in 1968. No studio would want to deal with that. So sadly, Adam and Burt became typecasted and could only get a little bit of acting jobs. They mostly turned to public appearances and tried to get reruns of the show on television, but back then, it was very hard to approach a network to do reruns of a show that was just recently on a rival network. But to this day, both West and Burt Ward sometimes do conventions. Now, many fans actually forget that Batman and Robin did appear on TV again 10 years later in 1978 with the special called Legends of the Superheroes, which basically was a celebrity roast of the Batman. Though many fans choose to ignore this ever happened, and for good reason. Yeah, the 60s series was bad, but it was a good kind of bad. You know, the camp worked. This rehash was a Greek tragedy. It was terrible. Nobody wants to remember it. I'm kind of disturbed that I came across it. Anyway, the dynamic duo did actually reprise their roles a few times. West especially lent his voice to Batman in the short-lived Filmation's The New Adventures of Batman, which was a cartoon show that went against the other Adventures of Batman, where Alan Soule and Casey Kasem were Batman and Robin, which that show, even though the animation for both was a little lame, I believe Adam West's series featured the Joker, and the other series didn't have some of the people from the series. And they also brought back some 60s villains too, like King Tut and things like that. But it didn't really work, but it did introduce some other characters outside of Batmite, which is weird. After that show was canceled, West just kind of went back to doing public appearances, and then he was asked to be the voice of Batman in the Super Friends, replacing Alan Soule until the show's final season, which was Galactic Guardians. So I believe he was Batman for like 3 seasons. Now, Adam and Casey Kasem were actually approached to man a new Batman cartoon show in 1986, but the ratings were too low for the final season of the Super Friends, so the pilot episode, The Fear, which was going to be the launch of the new Batman show, was used in a Guardians episode. And that was pretty much it, until the Burton years. Now, rumor has it, and I don't know if this is true or not, but Tim Burton and DC offered him a lot of money to play Thomas Wayne in the new Batman movie alongside Keaton and Nicholson. Which would have been really cool because it showed the origin of Batman. But due to West's ego, he turned down the role because he couldn't be Batman, and Batman's origin was not shown. Instead, we get the iconic opening of Batman fighting the muggers who just mugged a different family, similar to what happened to Bruce Wayne. But if you look at the Burton films, there is no origin story for Batman. It would have originally been Adam West and I believe Julie Neymour. Still, up until the film came out, Adam West, Burt Ward, and a lot of previous 60s Batman characters went on TV to discredit Keaton and the upcoming darker, gothic Batman film that Burton was doing. And part of the reason was because he got the role turned down, which I don't think that was very cool of Mr. West, personally. But eventually, you know, he did shut up, and the television series saw a comeback when Batmania was at its highest in 1989 for the new cable network, the Family Channel. And basically, they started showing so much of the 60s series, and that's how I got introduced to Batman on television in 1989. And then I didn't have to wait long after that for the animated series. So I was on cloud 9, you know, when I was a kid. I saw so many different incarnations of Batman. It was awesome. Still, what's really cool about Adam West, though, is after the whole humbling experience of the 1989 drama, DC approached West to have a guest starring role alongside a new actor, Kevin Conroy, who voiced Batman in the animated series, to appear in an episode called The Grey Ghost, which basically has West's character playing an out-of-work actor most known for playing a hero on TV and then becoming typecast. It was a great episode and was done in a way that was heartwarming and exciting. West also continued to visit Gotham after, though not donning the cape and cowl anymore. He would play the mayor in the first season of the 2004 The Batman Show, and he would also voice Thomas Wayne, ironically, in a few episodes of Batman Brave and the Bold, along with Julie Newmar. He also played a robot named Proto, which was kind of like Batman's sci-fi robot thing, but it was only in a couple episodes. What's really interesting about Mr. West, though, is he will be appearing as himself in the new LEGO Batman 3 game Beyond Gotham. Though his role at this time isn't really known, or if he'll have bat gadgets. I think it'd be kind of cool if he had, like, some bat gadgets. That'd be interesting. But he will be in the new game, so if you like Adam West, then there you go. So what became of Robin the Boy Wonder, though? Well, Burt actually opened a dog shelter with his second or third wife, and he retired the tights for good. Although he still does public appearances, he kind of distances himself from Robin a little bit. He actually wrote a book in the 90s, His Life in Tights or something, and it talked a lot about what happened on the set, and of course his first divorce, which happened because Burt Ward cheated on some extra or girl that was on the set, and the wife found out, and then of course Burt had the affair. But unfortunately Hollywood destroyed marriages then, and it destroys them now. The duo did get together with the surviving cast members of Batman in the 80s and 90s for like some talk show stuff, but the really cool thing was in 2003 when they got together for the Return to the Batcave movie, which showed what life was like for Adam and Burt behind the set. And if you haven't seen it, you can check out the link in the description. It's on Amazon. It's pretty awesome. But anyway, folks, that does it for my look back on the origins behind the Batman TV show, the 60s camp. Now, while I personally like the animated series much, much better, what West & Company did will always have a place of honor, for it showed that the Batman can work in many genres. Light, dark, it doesn't matter. He is a comic book character that will be around for our children's children, and that's pretty awesome that the world has an everlasting symbol of justice. But anyway, folks, I'm spent. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch another Batman Arkham Wednesdays. Now I want to hear from all of you. What did you learn about the secret origins of the 1966 series? Sound off in the comments section below. Also, let me know if you'll be picking up the DVD and Blu-ray this November of the Batman series. Personally, I can't wait to add this into my collection, and I've been waiting a long time to get the series in good condition. Having seen it in reruns on TV, you know, it just doesn't look that great. So I can't wait to see it in HD. But anyway, until next Wednesday, gamers, I'll see you same bat time, same bat channel, for more of Batman's 75th year history here on Nightwing 01. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends, because it helps a lot. Mr. Freeze, take us out.
Impressive, Batman. This ending would move me to tears if I still had tears to shed. Remember to like and share this video with your peers, or I'll shatter your frozen body like glass.